Hey guys, welcome to the second part of my series previewing every NBA team's 2020-21 season. And today we're talking about the Boston Celtics. Last year, the Boston Celtics finished with a 48-24 record, finishing third in the Eastern Conference. In the first round of the playoffs, they swept the 76ers quite convincingly, though it's important to note that the Sixers did not have Ben Simmons in that series. And then they won a series against the Toronto Raptors in 7 games. That was a really tough series that went back and forth, with the Celtics just edging it. And then in the conference finals, they lost in 6 games to the Miami Heat. Obviously, there was that huge bam block on Jayson Tatum in Game 1, and they just didn't end up turning it around from there. So this offseason, they drafted Aaron Nesmith with the 14th overall pick, who is a great shooter, and he'll be a good option for them off the bench. Though they did lose a wing player in Gordon Hayward, who denied his $34 million player option, was many were expecting him to pick up, but he ended up signing with the Charlotte Hornets for a monstrous 4 years, $120 million deal. They also lost their backup center, Enes Kanter, though he wasn't much use in the playoffs, and Brad Stevens was preferring Robert Williams near the end of the playoffs. But some good news for the Celtics this offseason. They signed Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague, and they also re-signed Jayson Tatum to a 5-year, $195 million maximum rookie extension. And that brings us nicely to their key player, who is Jayson Tatum, who last year took another step forward. Him and Kemba Walker were all-stars, with Jaylen Brown almost making the all-star team. And last year he averaged 23 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists on 45% shooting from the field and 40% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. But he was also a great defender, averaging 1.4 steals a game, and was almost made the all-defensive team. But obviously there's a lot of competition for those two teams. But what really is exciting about Jayson Tatum is his stats during the month of February, where he averaged 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. You ask yourself whether that's sustainable, and there's probably not, because those are just insane numbers, but it definitely shows that he did improve towards the end of last season, and he can take another leap this season and really step up. And I think there'll be more shots available for him, obviously with Gordon Hayward leaving. So if he takes more shots, he'll likely average more points. And two things that Tatum could improve on, like he could go in either direction. If he improves his shooting, he's already a very good shooter, but if he becomes just an automatic shooter, that could really help him. Or he could improve his ball handling and playmaking. Obviously, there were signs that he's a pretty good ball handler, but sometimes his handle is a bit sloppy. And then he's also a decent playmaker for a wing, but if you can really take that to the next level and not become a primary ball handler, I don't know if he'll ever get there, but really become that secondary ball handler for the Celtics behind Kemba, with Hayward leaving. Hayward was also a really good passer, so we'll see how the Celtics compensate for that. Though with Brad Stevens being such a good coach with his plays and all that sort of thing, I'm sure they'll be fine. So if we look at a projected lineup for the Boston Celtics, it would be Kemba, Smart, Brown, and Tatum. That was the lineup they were running with since Gordon Hayward was injured for a few games that season, and it did pretty well. And then it would either be Tristan Thompson or Daniel Theis at center. I think it would be Tristan Thompson just for his size and rebounding ability. And off the bench, they were a bit lacking in depth. Obviously, Jeff Teague, who they signed, Aaron Nesmith, the rookie, and then at the bigs, they're pretty good with Grant Williams, Robert Williams, and Daniel Theis. So I think their big man rotation is fine. I mean, no stars in there, but the talent of the Celtics team is really on the wings and at the guard spot. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them making a trade for like a shooting guard, small forward who can shoot it and maybe can handle the ball a little bit. Like, obviously they have Jeff Teague and Aaron Nesmith, but I'd like to see them have one other guy off the bench. I think that could really help them. For the starting lineup, Kemba averaged 20 points last year, and I think it'll probably be similar this year. Obviously, a great ball handler and lethal in those high pick and rolls when he can get downhill and either go to the basket or pull up from mid-range. He was just killing the Raptors in that second round series a few times from the mid-range. And then Marcus Smart, who was named to the all-defensive first team last year. This Celtics team has three really good defenders on the wing in Smart, Brown, and Tatum. Like, certainly one of the best wing trios of defenders. But Marcus Smart, definitely the standout, just gives his all every time he gets on the court and just a winner. If his three-point shooting can become more consistent, then, well, he already is a really good player, but that would just take it to the next level and help them all out a lot offensively, because sometimes teams are willing to let Marcus Smart shoot. And then at small forward, Jaylen Brown, a player who's improved every year. This year, averaged 20 points per game. I think he can even take his game to the next level and average maybe more like 22. He's a pretty good rebounder, averaged 6 a game. And then obviously also a very good defender. So he's a really good piece for them, and they'll be building around Tatum and him in the future. And that brings us to Tatum. I've already talked about him. As to why I think he can average 23 a game last year, I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting over 25 points. And I definitely think he'll be an all-star and all-NBA player. I'm really high on Tatum, and I think he's going to have to step up, obviously, with Hayward leaving this offseason. And then for their bigs in Thompson and Theis, just the same, and Robert Williams. Thompson, he's going to bring some rebounding and some decent rim protection. And then Theis, obviously, the versatility defensively and just playing hard. That's sort of what you need from your bigs in the modern NBA. So for this team, obviously they have a good balance between offense and defense, with Smart, Brown, and Tatum all being really good defensive players, and then with Kemba, Tatum, and Brown all also being really good offensive players. So I think they could be top 10 on both sides of the ball, and that usually leads to a really good team. And then this year, more shots for Brown and Tatum, with Hayward leaving and maybe Kemba declining a little bit, like not at his peak. And then some problems for them is obviously the depth. They only really have like 2 or 3 legitimate guys coming off the bench, so I wonder if they'll make a trade for another wing guard type of guy. So as for where I think they can finish, it's pretty tough in the Eastern Conference, because I'd say 2 through 6 is really tight. But I'm pretty optimistic on Tatum and Brown, but mainly Tatum. So I'm going to go pretty optimistic, say Tatum is going to take another step, and I'm going to say the Celtics are going to get the 2 seed. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.